insert whatever. And I was like, well, how much equity do you have? And they was like, well, I'm thinking about buying the brand new BMW, this, that, and the third. And they had over $300,000 in equity and wanted to go out there and buy this car. And I was like, well, you could. And I'm going to let you finish that one.
You could if you have the right mortgage product.
Right.
Because then we're going to go back to the all-in-one loan.
Right. So that's why I said, go ahead, insert your piece.
So with the all-in-one loan, again, because we are so accustomed to the 30-year mortgage that's closed in that you don't have access to anymore. So many people rush to pay theirs off and then it's closed. In equity, they think that it's theirs. In theory, it's not, because you got to go ask somebody for it. And because you got to go to the bank and say, hey, I need $30,000 or $40,000 because I want to buy a car. Yeah, they'd give it to you, but now you got another payment, right? So that's the close-in mortgage that we know of. And because we are so rate-driven, that I always ask people, which would you take, a 3% for 30 years or 8% for 10 years? Which would you take?
Me, 3%.
You would take the 3 for 30 versus the 8 for 10? It's not the right way.
Well, there it is. See, that's why we got a Mark Freeman.
And because when you look at only with a mortgage, do we close our eyes and say, I'm gonna borrow $200,000 but pay you back $900? Only with a mortgage because it's closed in.
You're right.
Where if at 8% for 10 years, I'm gonna pay you less interest. It may be 8%, but I'm gonna pay you less interest.
Right.
And then too, with the right type of mortgage, with the mortgage that we know today, everything go to interest first. Interest. With the new 21st century mortgage, everything go to principal first. Principal. And there's no escrow. And they give you a checkbook and a Visa. They combine checking and mortgage into one, to where you have access to 80% of your equity. So that same person with the $300,000 of equity, if he had that mortgage, he have a checkbook and a Visa card. He can just go write a check, pay the car off, and do that. Because I did that as well, because I have the all-in-one, right? So basically, I refinanced into it. I think I owed 80 on my house. It was worth 220 or something like that. So it paid that off, and I had access to 80%, which was a difference, right? So I had that available access to equity. Don't have to ask anybody because I got a check.
That's mine.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, now the old way, you got to go to the bank and ask somebody. I don't have to ask anybody anymore. So I was educating people that they need to get into that, right? So that same person who wanted to buy that car, because I did it, I financed it. And the only reason I financed it because they wouldn't give me the incentives. So you want the incentive, they want you to finance it because finance is going to make them money over the long time and all that other stuff, right? So I did it and financed it. So when the payment came due, I wrote a little check, paid it off. I don't have a car payment, yeah, right? My mortgage was maybe what, 700. It's still 700. So I'm just using the equity because that much didn't increase it that much, right?
Right.
But because everything going to principal first, it's still being paid down a lot faster, and that mortgage would be paid for in maybe 2